Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, Pick Guardian.
Jared Brandon Wong Pickups.
Hey, it's me, Todd Novak. So happy to have you with us. We are excited for our show tonight. This is the Guitar Knobs podcast, and we love talking about boutique builders of guitars and pedals and gear and all kinds of that sort of thing. And on the line, we've got somebody super special.
Johnny from Daredevil Pedals.
And you are calling from?
I'm calling from Chicago, Illinois.
Nice.
Hey.
Heck of a music town there.
The Bears.
Yeah.
Let's see here. We got a couple things that we're going to take care of. Tony?
Yes, special shout out to our good friends at Rode Microphones. They have provided us with not only some Procaster microphones and the articulating stands, recording our magical podcastian frolicking.
Thank you, Tony. And thanks, Rode. Indeed. If you've been listening as of late, you've heard us bring up the Potent Pairings thing a few times. That's a segment that they have under the news tab. And that's actually one of my favorites because they've pulled on a lot of people that I dig. They're looking for now is for all of you to go weigh in on what they should be doing next as far as Potent Pairings. So they've had the Beatles, they've had Smashing Pumpkins, Arctic Monkeys, a host of others, but they need a little help. What they want you to do is go to the website. They're going to send you to a place and vote for the bands that you want to have listed on there.
Paired,
yeah. So if you're not familiar with Potent Pairings, essentially what it does is it breaks down a couple of the main sounds that the particular band does. And they say, this is the guitar you need. This is the pedal you need. Mostly the pedals. But this is the equipment you need to sound like these particular tunes. So go over to reverb.com and check it out. Potent Pairings, and help them pick the next Potent Pairing artiste. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Tony.
Well, let me think. So last time we talked a little bit about the Eastwood little mandolin. That came in. I'm really pleased with that. I ended up changing out some of the plastic parts, modified it so it's even more like a Rickenbacker 5002. So it has a toaster pickup in it. It has a little different nameplate on the headstock. So it's pretty cool. I mean, it sounded great as it was, but now it has the look. Also in today's,
it does look awful nice.
Also in today's mail or UPS, we had my Guild Jetstar came in from Guild.
You didn't bring it in?
I didn't bring it in.
What the crap is that?
I know. I had so much to carry. I had a big box of pedals.
Yeah.
And 2 brochures. And
I want to see that thing.
That's a lot of stuff.
You know where I am.
I know. I still have to deliver you a box of pedals anyways.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, check it out. But it's a cool guitar. It's the one in seafoam green.
Yep.
Basically based off of a 60s kind of Gumby-shaped bodied S100 or S50 Jetstar that Guild put out. And ever since Cordoba has taken over Guild, they've really just gone... I think they've done some really nice reissues of some of the more obscure things that Guild did back then, especially on the electric side.
Awesome.
So, shout out to Guild.
Should get them on.
You think so?
Guild.
Talk to them.
Let me talk. Guild, if you're listening.
Get a hold of them. Johnny.
Hey.
What's going on in your guitar world this week, buddy?
Nothing. I just wanted to throw in that I got a reissue S100, and it's actually, it's pretty ripping, I have an old one, and now I got a reissue, and I was pretty, pleasantly surprised.
Nice.
Yeah, those are. Was it one of the ones from the Cordoba era?
Yeah, it was like not quite 2 years ago.
Oh yeah, perfect.
2016.
Yeah. Those are.
I got a 95 one that's just beat the crap, but I wanted not to take that out anymore, so I got a new one, and yeah, it's good.
Are there any obvious differences between the two, other than the old one's older?
No, they're pretty close. It's poly instead of So, I mean, it's got that kind of Korean thing going on a little bit, but it's a little bit heavier, but it's still, everything else feels pretty close.
Okay. When you're talking about the poly, are you just saying like it's that kind of like extra heavy coat of poly, or?
Yeah, a lot of like the Indonesian, Korean.
Yeah.
It's got that
plastic
thing.
coaty.
Yeah,
right.
Gotcha.
But it looks wonderful, and the neck is, got that nice flat radius kind of guild thing. So I dig it.
Cool.
For let's say for the price point, can't beat it.
Yeah, that's the real scary part.
Are you going to do anything in particular that is, I guess, to customize it?
This one, I mean, obviously, just go through my box of pickups and see what works good. Nothing too crazy. This is kind of like my backup, but mostly I've been using Tellys lately.
Mm-hmm.
Tellys and Gretches, so it's not really getting taken out for gigs, but it's there. It looks cool.
Nice.
I went on like a white guitar bender for about a year. So I think last year I bought like 4 white guitars. And I'm like, all right, I got to, switch it up. So we'll see, but
yeah. Well, I want to hear all about the gear you've been using and stuff. I know you've got a couple bands that you gig out pretty regularly in, and so we'll get to that. You can tell us all about some of the gear you're using. I'd love to hear about that. Jared.
Okay, so a few 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 episodes ago, I was talking about the. I'm sorry, I don't.
It's a little while back,
right? I'm sorry, I don't recall which episode it is, fellas, but I talked about a 1966 Fender Stratocaster, and I told you I was taking it up to my favorite place in Akron to have it refinished. And
who's that?
Dan up at Lay's.
All right.
Lay's Guitar Repair. So anyways, I did pick up the guitar, and I got it. And they know me so well now, I don't have to be specific with them. If, I really don't, because they just do everything the way I like, because we have a good relationship or whatever. So I just said, hey, make it this color and make it look cool. Mm-hmm. And they said, do you want some aging on it? I said, yeah, put some aging on it. Just make it look the part like it should.
Yeah.
I got it back. It's Lake Placid blue. And they kind of sprayed it with that, what do you call it? The darker amber.
Clear coat.
Yeah, whatever. With the nitro. Yeah. They put a little dark. They got the color down. In the age with it's not like a perfect Lake Placid blue. It looks like it's greened up over the years. So it's got that look.
I had the pleasure of seeing it before you actually arrived.
Right.
And they showed it to me. And first they showed me the neck, right? He showed me this neck, and I was like, yeah, this is actually a pretty good neck. And I remember Jared bringing in the neck and going, hey, this is in the neck. And then he showed me the body. And that's when everything clicked, because the age on the neck was that of, so that's early 90s, right?
That's a 1966.
66. By 90s, I meant 66.
Right.
So I was just upside down. So it was one that had been cased, like kept in a case, potentially.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
And so it just had that kind of, it wasn't overly aged. We're not talking about relic. It had like very well taken care of, very natural aging.
We call that honest wear.
Honest wear. And it didn't even have a ton of wear, just like, it was just honest. It was just honest, right?
That's what I want.
And then he showed me the body, and it's like the whole thing came to life. I was like, okay, I 100% get it. The amount of aging they did, it is really, really spot on.
I thought what brought it all together was the pick guard.
The rug usually does.
So I had Tony do the pick guard, and of course it looks great.
Yeah,
Jared.
Now, if you could just make it look like a Les Paul or something.
Yeah.
But one of the features that I'm in love with about this guitar is the Brazilian rosewood fretboard.
Yeah,
it's astoundingly beautiful.
It's one of the
slab board. It's
so
a real thin veneer
across
type
the
of
top.
Across the top. It's pretty.
Yeah,
it's pretty great. I mean, to be honest, it's another it's a Stratocaster. However, it does feel like a '66 Stratocaster. you can tell it's old. You can tell it's from 19.
It's one of the better looking ones that I've seen, and I'm not a fan of those. So
it's special. It's a really cool guitar.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really happy with that. I have it now, and I'm pondering selling it because I could actually make a lot of money selling it with what I have in it.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Just going to keep it around and see what happens.
Todd, what's going on in your week?
Well, Johnny was kind enough to send out a bunch of pedals for us. And so there they are clicking away. And I love when new boxes arrive, and I do the segments on Instagram where I pop them open. And I'm like, wahoo, right? Here's the pedals. The only thing is that I only have one pedal board, and it's a kind of a smaller one. So every time I get pedals to test, I got to tear apart my gig board, and it's a hassle. And it's causing a lot of unnecessary wear, I think, on my own electronics.
Yeah, you need another board.
So I need another board. So I spent some time looking for what is the board that I should get. So I think I'm going to get a bigger board, testing all the pedals that are coming in and out for the show. The world of pedal boards is a varied one, and they all have their upsides and their downsides, some of which have more of either. I mean, I would love to know what the listeners are using, what they like, why they like them. I am on a pedal board search for the right board. And Johnny, I'd love to hear what you've been using once we get into your... actually, just do it now. What are you using for pedal boards?
Well, as you can imagine, I got a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
But, most of them are kind of revolving in and out between other dealers and, stuff like that, because they get sent out and come back. So I don't have all of them, but I have quite a few different types. I just got some. Warwick does my European stuff for distro, and they make all those rock board. I don't know if you've seen those. You'll see them.
Okay.
They're cut out. They're lightweight.
All right.
They have this tray instead of having to just mount it with brackets, your power source.
Yeah.
They make just like a tray.
Oh, that's interesting.
So you can put all kinds of whatever in there and then just do that. So I got a couple of those. Mostly, I've been with Pedal Train for years, and they're awesome. And I've beaten the crap out of them. And I've probably got 6 of those, and they're great. Because, they make the small ones. So for me, I use the small one for myself, but then I can get the PT2 and put my whole, I'll fit 10 of them on there for NAMM and all the other display stuff. So
yeah, but for gigging,
you're
using a smaller board, right?
Yeah, because like we said before, I only use a tuner and 3 or 4 pedals,
right? And
I don't think I've ever used more than 5 maybe.
Yeah,
and that was back when I used a wah. So
yeah,
just because I got, especially now because I'm singing, so it's I got enough to worry about.
Yep.
Half the time I'm lucky if I can get just to that part of the stage to step on something.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's the thing with the light on it,
Yeah.
And then I got to be back on the mic.
Yep.
So that's always been it, because it's like high energy rock. There's too much going on to be trying to gently step on something.
Yep.
Somewhere, which I've always been baffled. These guys post their boards on Instagram, and there's literally no room between the pedals at all. And there's 30 of them. How do you play a show? And I'm sure some of those guys,
the singing thing. The singing thing is, I can feel you on that one, because I know that when I am doing shows where if the music that I'm doing is requiring me to sing, I'm not even. I mean, my board is often behind me because I got to concentrate on singing.
Yeah, keep it clear.
But if I'm not singing, then I have it in front of me, and I'm able to do a little bit more on it. But I'm not a tap dancer, so.
Yeah, I mean, I have a size 14 or 15 shoe, depending on what brand it is. How am I going to be able to step on a pedal board with 30 pedals?
That's why we got you that big
mini pedals, right? And they're all sandwiched together.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no good utility as far as for me, no way. It's got to be the big wah-wah size pedal for me.
All of them.
Well, when I play out,
Johnny, can you build a
they all have size 5 shoe, man.
Can you build a wah-wah size booster pedal?
Like a big muff? All of them.
I had a guy email me that wanted me to build him a custom wah pedal with all these features to the size of his foot.
That's right.
Wow.
Like I would just say, yeah, and go and like, metal
Jeez.
cast something in my garage or something. I don't know. I couldn't help him, sadly, but.
Right.
Yeah. Well, when I play out, I usually just have my guitar tech switch the pedals on and off.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh boy. All right. Well, cool. Let's see here. Oh, you know what time it is?
1, 2, 3. 4 on the floor.
Okay, Johnny, 4 on the floor. I've been waiting for this one. Go for it.
Yeah, this is tougher than I was anticipating. But like you said, I had to actually think that I mostly use the stuff that I make for myself.
Yeah.
But if I had to not do that, I'd go with an orange Super Fuzz. I think people will argue, between the gray one and the orange one, like the blue button thing. Supposedly they're the same. I don't know. I'm sure people can split hairs about tone or whatever. And I think that the early different enclosure ones, those just the solid cast gray ones, were supposed to be pretty close too. But I've ripped both of those versions apart and built them and rebuilt them and stuff. I couldn't really tell much of a difference, but I think it's just like an old Marshall,
Yeah.
You get 10 of them and they all have a little bit different just because there's so much clipping and, there's so much going on in there.
Yeah.
So little variances tend to make a big deal when you amplify it 6 times in a row,
Yeah. Is there something specific about that sound that you gravitate towards?
Yeah, it's got tons of just textury, smashy kind of chaos going on, but it's still really fat. It's really, a lot of low end. It's real warm.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a little bit of all the qualities you'd want from a fuzz, kind of out of control at the same time.
Yeah.
Like all those awesome Townsend solos kind of went in and out of feedback and just, it sounded like something was broken almost. I kind of like that aspect.
And it is one of the cooler looking pedals ever produced.
Yeah, it's huge. You could club somebody with it. And I'm also a massive, like Fu Manchu used those too, but in a kind of a different way where it was just fat and warm and tight.
Yeah.
And really together and solid.
Yeah.
With the full stack, So, with that goofy toggle on there, you can kind of do either or.
Cool, man.
So,
what you got for number 2?
2, I've always had a Phase 90 or some kind of phase on my board, so I would go with, I had an old Script logo Phase 90 that I loved.
I had a feeling you were going to say one, either a Phase 90 or a Phase 100.
I've got a lot of different phasers, but I still kind of go back to that. I got a Whirlwind now that I'm using for my band, which is supposedly the original, version of the Phase 90, but I remember having a Script logo that was killer until it died.
Those are kind of like the fuzz you were talking about, where you never know what you're going to get out of those things as far as variances and I think they were another one of those companies where they got their things done and got them out the door. Yeah,
and I think the key to a lot of those early phases was that they would have to match certain components with some of those, like the early Electro Harmonics small stones. They would be matched, the ones that don't have the LED, and that's what would give them like the really good phasing, because you're getting a more, maybe I'm wrong, but you're getting more of like an even, correct phase out of the signal.
Man, those old boxes are so hot right now. Holy moly.
Yeah, and they'll color the crap out of your tone, but I usually tweak that and make it like true bypass so it doesn't mess with my fuzzes as much. Yeah, because it sounds better in the front of the chain for whatever reason.
Interesting. So wait, you throw your phase in front of your chain?
For whatever reason, the small stone, I think it sounds best in front of all my other pedals.
Really?
But I'll make it true bypass.
Wow! Everybody make note of that. That's interesting. That's an interesting idea. So you're converting your phases into true bypass. Well, the small stone specifically.
Just for that one, my Whirlwind is at the end.
Okay. So I see. Okay.
Go figure. I don't know. Trial and error. There's no right or wrong, right?
Yeah. No, it isn't. There isn't. It isn't, or there isn't. Both are. See, there's no right or wrong.
Take your pick.
Yeah. All right. What you have number 3 there, bud?
I gotta put an actual wah pedal on there. I know it goes against my atomic cock nature, but I mean
that's
school,
personal.
Yeah. Pretty much, before I even started Daredevil, I always had an old school wah on my board, and everybody has their own personal guitar heroes, but if I had to say there's only 4 pedals that I can't do without, that would have to be on there. So I've got a 74 Crybaby that's pretty awesome, but I also had a buddy lend me a Vox King wah from the 70s, which it's pretty close to just like a regular gray Vox, but for whatever reason, like you said, it just had that thing, and it was just huge and real powerful, and it did the Jimmy thing and all that in between. So
nice. And for the record, listeners, so that we there's no misunderstanding. Whatever Johnny's prowess might be, he actually does have a pedal called the Atomic Cock. So
I'd like to hear more about his atomic
that wasn't a metaphor for anything. Or
I just want to make sure that we're all clear on that. And that is a cocked wah. So it is a set wah pedal that we'll talk about in a little bit. What do you have for number 4 there, bud?
Yeah, this is tough because I want to go with another fuzz. But
nothing wrong with that.
I mean, honestly, that's like the limit. Right now, I think I have 3 fuzzes and a phaser on my board.
Yeah.
So it's more just different types. But I got to go with like the old Gary Hurst MK1 Bronto Bender.
All right.
The gold MK1, because that's, I don't know, that's just like my idea. A lot of people will say, oh, I like the Page, solo sound thing, and like that's cool, but for whatever reason, that the gold MK1 is Mick Ronson Bowie fuzz tone is like my idea of the perfect fuzz,
Cool. I think you've tried to work some of that into your pedals too.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. The cocked wah, you leave the wah on and crank your Marshall and
boom,
just crush it. You got a clean tone and you nail it with fuzz.
Yeah, and
that's the way to do it. I try to keep my amps as clean as I can, and I started using lower output, cleaner pickups. Like Tellys and Filtertrons and stuff, because you can really slam it with fuzz, and you just get all the cool like nuances out of it without getting into the mushy stuff that you get with like humbuckers or higher, 800 or something. It doesn't jive as much. So, and that goes back to, I heard something years back about Joe Perry too. And he's like, man, I try and keep cause he always has like 15 heads on stage and all this gear, and he was like, I just try to keep all the amps clean, and I just let my pedals do what I want. I was like, oh, okay. So he's not using the Marshall for the gainy thing and the Fender for this and switching and all that. It's just everything's just loud and clean. And, I was like, well, that makes it a lot easier,
Well, that's a really interesting point, because I think, shocker, there's other opinions on that out in the guitar world. There seems to be, for everyone, sort of majority belief on something, there's an equal and relative other opinion. If you're using your pedals to drive your sound, you're going to get a different outcome. And they were suggesting that making sure that you try to push your amp before you make your pedals push it. It was along that line of, so, what you were just talking about, which that's actually what I do, is keep it like super, super clean and let the pedals go, versus pushing your amp. So using, like a smaller, lower wattage amp, and like really pushing it, and then dropping your pedals into that signal. And I mean, it's, hey, horses for courses is whatever ends up working for you, but it is an interesting discussion out there.
Yeah, but you can do that. I mean, you can push your amp a lot and still have that clean thing in there. I'm a big fan of like old trainers, and, where it's like, it'll, like a V4 or something, like it'll still tear your head off, and you can hear the power tubes are like really cranked, and it's hot, so it's got like a little bit of hair to it, It's not like you're playing whatever, some of those like super cleany, headroomy type deals, where you're not, it doesn't feel like the amp's cooking too much.
Yeah.
You get right in that sweet spot where it's just starting to, be really hot sounding. And then you hit it and it's like, but I play high, like a lot of fuzz. So I guess it's a little easier for me. I'm not trying to get like in the middle or tame anything too much.
Yeah.
We just gotta turn it loose. But
what's your favorite trainer?
Man, you wouldn't believe this. So I got a bunch of them, but for whatever reason, I still can't believe I did this. My buddy had one, and my buddy's got his entire place, his apartment is just like a store. Like he's got probably 15 cabs, a dozen heads. He's got all this gear, and it's just his. And he's like, man, I got to get rid of some of this. I got a trainer head. You're into trainers. I got it's not a flip top, but I'll sell it to you for, whatever, $500.
Wow.
And I was like, well, man, my other buddy who plays guitar is really wanting one. He doesn't have a trainer, and I keep telling him about him. So I hit him up. I'm like, hey, man, I got this trainer head. If you want one, I already got 3 of them. It's a YBA one. And he's like, all right, cool, yeah, $500. So he comes over, and I just hand it to him. And it's not the flip top. It's earlier. It turned out to be a 1969.
Oh, wow.
And he already paid for it. We're going through it, and it's got like RCA rebranded Muller tubes in it. It's all got the original tubes.
Wow.
It's all original, and he plugs it in, and I swear to God, it's like Eddie Van Halen, just plexi stock thing. I mean, we just cranked it up, and it was the most incredible plexi sounding amp I've ever heard.
Wow.
And I'm just kicking myself, and he's smiling because he knows he's walking out the door with his head, and I'm such an idiot for not actually playing the thing first and thinking like, I'm just going to keep this. And I could have easily just given him one of the other ones. There you go. Yeah, it's great. Bye. But you never know, man. It's like those old amps. You never know.
Yeah, those are really cool amps. I've had a couple of Bassmasters and what was it? Was it a Guitar Mate and Studio Mate?
Yeah, they had the little EL84 versions.
Oh yeah, and those are cool amps. I think the one had like 4 8-inch speakers in it. It was a crazy format.
Yeah, they're and man, they're bulletproof. Seriously, I had my first YBA one. I think I toured with it for 6 years. I never changed the tubes. Never had any problems. I played it every night. Beat the crap out of it.
Well, that was kind of I don't know if it's just folklore or whatever, but supposedly Pete Traynor used to take, and just for presentation purposes, take an amp to the top of the building and drop it into the parking lot.
What?
And plug it in and it would play.
Shut up.
No, they're built like tanks. They're cool.
Johnny, would you do
they're
that?
Awesome. It's all... I don't know. If I was building them and I had a warehouse full of parts, yeah. I've seen the Reinhold Bogner video too, where he just, he's standing in a driveway and he just slams it on the ground and, smashes the head and then plays it. But
I know of a guitar builder that when he was designing his neck, he would take the guitar, put it on a stand or just lean it up against something, and then he would tip the guitar over. And if the neck didn't break, and if it stayed in tune, he knew he had built a great neck.
And that there was 3 more weeks of winter. Anyhow, we've got Johnny, and we're trying to figure out why he's on here. And that's because he makes awesome pedals that are, look, these are rock and roll pedals. There's no doubt about it. You're not doing shoegazy, shimmery, thoughtful, pondering rock pedals. This is for kicking ass on the stage. Let's be pretty clear about that, right?
That's pretty accurate. Yeah, I would say that. I try to get kind of the best of all worlds as far as what I want, I try to make all the settings usable. I try to solve problems that people have with vintage pedals. And I started this whole thing just by doing what I wanted for myself, for being in a band and touring and playing guitar, because it wasn't even a pedal company. It was just learning how to build things for myself so that I had a cocked wah pedal.
Was that the first one?
I built a kit for a Rangemaster because I ordered a Super Fuzz clone from a guy, and I'm like, hey man, will you build me a Rangemaster? And he said, well, that they're not that hard. It's only like 7 parts. You know, you can get a little kit for like $40 and build one yourself. You might get really into it, you know. And I did, and I just was like off and running immediately.
That's cool.
So then after that, it was like, you know, I learned how to build a fuzz face, all the basic, you know, beginner stuff. And then it was like, all right, I'm taking these old broken wahs and I'm going to figure this out because no one is making this thing and I need it. And so I was just gutting wah pedals and making these like Frankenstein things. Like I'd rip the pedal off of it and then just have the knob sticking out, and you know, there's big ugly things. And I went through like 3 or 4 of those, and then I figured out the Atomic Hawk, and then I had the Silver Solo, and I made a couple other like fuzz kind of modded clone things just so that I had a handful of pedals. And I was like, well, maybe I could, you know, I started hawking them off to my friends and that whole thing, but it was still just like a hobby. And then you fast forward like 6 months, and then I was like, well, you know, this is a lot more fun than, you know, mopping floors in a bar or all the other crappy jobs I had. Because I was still, you know, when you're in a band and you come home, it's like you got to kind of do what you can just to pay the bills.
Sure.
Type thing. So we all had really crappy jobs, and it's like, well, if I can do this and not have to stay out till 4 a.m, you know, filling ice coolers, then that might be kind of cool. So I just, you know, I kind of charged headfirst into something that I really didn't even know that much about, which I've always been really good at, is, you know, saying yes to something and then figuring it out as I go.
That's a super common story, man, with everybody. I mean, I don't say that to dismiss your story. I think that's awesome, and it's hugely inspiring. And that's one of the reasons that we do this, is because A, we want to hear your backstory, and B, that's the kind of story, like, hopefully somebody who's listening right now is going like, you know, I was thinking about doing that. If he can do it, I can do it. And maybe they get started down this kick that they never would have thought of before. Time and time again, what we have is somebody saying, I was just trying to do something because I couldn't find what I wanted, or I wanted to do something creative in music, and I, you know, just want to get a little deeper into it. Everybody just seems to fall into this. We haven't talked to anybody yet who's like, I'm going to start a pedal company. So it's really great to hear that, you know, that kind of a backstory. Did you have much of an electronics exposure before that?
No, not. I didn't know. I literally didn't even know how to solder.
Okay, I want to elaborate on this just one moment. This is really important. This is a guy who didn't know how to solder, who is now running one of the most well-known pedal companies out there, period. Think about that for a second. That's amazing. You've created your own world. You've created your own brand. You're not lost out among the others, and you're doing what you love, I'm assuming.
Yeah, you know, and I tell people too, it's, you know, from being started doing my band and touring and all that, because, you know, I was convinced I was going to be a professional musician when I was like 13, right? So after doing that for over a decade, and then doing this, it's like, it so parallels being in a band. And I always tell people that, because it's like you still get to come up with these little like nuggets of an idea, and then you develop it, and then you just kind of put it out in the world, and like hopefully people like it, right? Yeah. You know, and you have to do the artwork, and you have to convince other people it's good, and you know, it's the same process. Mm-hmm. You know, except at the end of the day, instead of just going home with $10 in your pocket and you sleep in a van, I get to sleep at home, and I actually get paid and can pay my mortgage and stuff. So, yeah. But like the approach and everything is really the same. You know, you wake up in the middle of the night with some crazy idea, like, oh my God, this would be such a cool name or effect or whatever. And then you just write it down and you go on the next day and start working on it. You know, I love being able to just kind of spontaneously do whatever the hell I want. Mm-hmm. And I don't have to even like compromise with bandmates on this. I have absolute control. I don't have to convince my drummer that this riff is cool. Right. You know, it's like, I just do it. And
sounds like you need a new drummer if that's the case.
Yeah, it's just a lot more streamlined, but it's the same thing, and that's kind of what's cool about it. I like just being able to still be creative, and the biggest kick for me, and this has happened, you know, a couple of times, but not a lot, but is when I'll be at some big show and I'll be watching a band or guitar player or whatever, and they're actually using, one of my pedals that I built or whatever, and it's someone, like, it doesn't even kick in that that's happening, and then I realize, like, oh my God, this guy's playing this song I've been hearing my whole life with my fuzz or something, and that's where it's one of those, like, surreal kind of things, It's like, obviously I'd rather be up there playing next to him, but this is like kind of one of the most rewarding parts about doing this, and even if it's like some kid at home, it's just inspiring people to play music, and maybe they come up with some awesome riff, or that helps them with their band, or that they find their own tone as a musician. Like, I feel like great that I can have that kind of influence on, whoever, through just making these little things that I thought of in my house, and going to my shop and make them, and now some other kid somewhere is tearing into it, and I've had some kind of impact on that, and that's pretty cool on just like a music rock and roll level, along like some kid hearing his first, Jimi Hendrix record, and then he goes on to, it's like one of those kind of things. Like, I'm glad that I can still affect other people in different ways, and it's a viable thing. Like, I can keep doing this, and it's not just some hobby or, whatever. I've turned being obsessed with gear and music and rock and roll into a means of, of doing it, of a way of life. And that's pretty cool. I have to keep reminding myself that I kind of lucked out big time and that I get to do this every day,
Yeah, dude, that's fantastic. I think that you touched on a specific something with the inspiration part a lot. There's times when you buy gear because you think you know what you need and that thing's going to solve it. And then there's other times when you're just intrigued by something. And I'll use Tony's guitar that he loaned me as an example that we have in the office right now. He loaned me an offset, a jazz master bastard, whatever. And I brought that back, and instantly 3 new songs came out of that. I believe that was because there was a certain something about that guitar, about the sound.
Oh, it was that actual guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was that guitar.
It was, yes.
Yes.
Is that one for sale? That is for sale too. But it just triggered something in me. And I think, what's neat about equipment is we continue to seek new equipment, and a lot of that is chasing something, sort of hoping. It's almost like it's like a oyster or like a lottery ticket. You're like, I think this might be the thing that gives me the thing that I'm looking for. And the idea that you might actually be providing that to somebody, that's pretty powerful. That's cool. Plus, you talked about being, paralleling a band. Anybody who's been in a band knows that one of the most awesome and most excruciating things about being a band is coming up with the band name. And
is this a segue into something?
Well, you've
that's a totally different episode.
Yeah, we'll segue right into your pedals. Actually, you've got great names for your pedals too, and that you don't have to compromise, as you said, with other band members to come up with that. And you're like, no, we're not calling ourselves Bad Apples with a Z, idiot.
So how did you come up with the atomic cock?
Well, it's the whole, like, Rano influence thing. The original version was like bright green and it had the little, lightning bolt on it. I don't really remember too much other than I thought it was, kind of obviously I was brand new at doing this and I wanted to get people's attention. So I thought that would be kind of cool to put that little play on words.
So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I don't want to lose this subject here. So is the word cock, is that a verb? Like you're cocking a gun?
It's the cocktois.
A cocktois.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, if you wanted to be...
It's an adjective.
Yeah. If you wanted to get grammatical on it, it should probably be called the atomic cocked.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't do that with my wah. Just keep it in one position for that tone, so I'm not really familiar with that.
But yeah, because then you got to turn it on and off, so you can't, right? It's a total hassle. And then you got that was my problem, you know. I'm trying to play a solo and I got to hit a boost or I got to hit a fuzz and then I got to hit the wah and then I got to turn it off and then I got to hit the boost again.
And then hope you find the place that you wanted.
Well, yeah,
and then I got to sing backups and it's like, you know, forget it. I want one thing that gets louder and does that tone and then I turn it off.
I was on a binge for Bowie at the Beeb, some of the live stuff that they were doing. And there's one section, I don't know if it was in Ziggy, one of the versions of Ziggy, but you can hear where Ronson missed the switch and it just kind of, he backs off of it. Thinking that it's off, and it's just this little
little giddy up.
Yeah, I bet he wishes he had one of these.
Yeah, I think that I tried to do a live wah action one time, and then I was like, nope. I can't read and chew gum at the same time, and that's not gonna work for me. So that's surprising that was your first pedal, because that's I think most people tend to go, you kind of went almost backwards. You went like a cocked wah and then you went all the way, then you went to like range master and fuzzes and stuff. But I will say that just really quick on our table right now, we have, Tony, you want to?
Yes, we have the Silver Solo, the Northern Creeper, and the Cocked and Fearless.
Cocked and Fearless, yeah. And
my personal favorite.
I think unanimously, before we get into the particulars about each of these pedals in front of us, and he's got many more on his website and on Reverb. So if you're at home playing along, you can go check those out. But I think the first thing that we all went like, ooh, was, man, the potentiometers on these things are redunculous.
Smooth.
They are, it is like walking up to a really, really nice amp head and just going, hey now.
I might even say a Neve board.
Oh.
Yeah, they're the good pots.
Wow.
Yeah, he uses the good ones.
Are you can share with us offline what pots you're using?
Who watches these are the alphas I get for 65 cents a piece.
Yeah. No, they're not. They're, it's a Chicagoland distributor. So.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
They do some other big pedal brands too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, are you talking about the Cocked and Fearless?
Well, that one's the most.
I mean, all of them
are very smooth, but that one in particular, it's like silk. I love it.
It's like silky butter velvet.
Trademark.
There's a pedal.
Silky butter velvet.
Yeah. No, seriously, somebody go make that pedal. That sounds awesome.
Why not?
So let's see. You were talking about the cocked wah. So let's just start there. We've got the Cocked and Fearless. Now, arguably one of your more recognizable pedals is the your Fearless distortion pedal, right?
Yeah. So I came up with that because everybody's had the usual classic distortion type things. I kind of put off making a distortion for a long time because I just thought there was other cooler fuzzes that I was into. But I came up with that one. I was real happy with it. And at the time, I had an offer to do like this cool joint thing with another brand. And they had, I don't know what it was. I was going to like license it or something. I don't know. We were going to work together in some capacity. And they had this whole marketing scheme planned out, and it was going to be a part of that. And that's where the name came from. And then the whole thing completely fell apart. And now I'm stuck releasing a pedal with that name. So it just was there. The artwork was done.
It's killer artwork. The black cat.
Yeah, all the artwork is my tattoo artist from Chicago has a graphic design degree also. And we were buddies and we played in bands together and all that stuff. And he's like, well, I could put together something for this new pedal thing you got, going on. And then it just spiraled from there, and he did all of them.
That's cool. Do you mind dropping his name? Because I would like to visit that shop next time.
Well, he's down in Austin, Texas now. His name's Casey Sass.
Casey Sass.
Yeah, from the legendary Chicago band Black Actress. Yeah, he's down in Austin now, but he's tattooing.
I'm gonna look him up. Because I like your artwork, so
he has a whole thing of pop art and paintings and stuff way outside of pedals on his website. So definitely got some crazy skills going on.
Cool.
So yeah, another thing that just kind of came out of nowhere was like, okay, cool, because the Silver Solo was, I think that's the only one left where it's like me on Photoshop trying to do something, and then I was like, oh yeah, this looks way cooler. So we started doing it with an actual artist, and there's actually new artwork for the Silver Solo being printed right now. So
oh, really?
That will be updated, and we have a new pedal. I have a new pedal it's done. It's not going to be released for probably a month or two, which is another artist series kind of custom thing.
Yeah,
we did. It's a fuzz octave with a gate built in.
Okay.
And it's like a way over the top octave. It's not one of those subtle kind of weenie things you only hear in certain parts of the neck type deal. It's like a full, Purple Haze heavy duty octave deal. So
interesting.
I'm super stoked to get this out, and it's more like the Cocked and Fearless where it's a 2-in-1. So the octave is independent too. So if you have other gain or whatever, you can just.
Is it a living artist?
It is. I just saw him in concert a couple weeks ago, and it blew my mind.
Drop the name.
I'm trying. Well, he might not be able to do that. Are you able? You can't do that. Can you do that?
We got to make a couple tweaks, and we still have to talk about the whole.
Okay, when we're done, I'm going to see if I can guess who it is.
Yeah,
off the air.
You can poke around. I'm sure you figure it out.
All right. You can blink twice if I'm right.
Yeah.
Ooh, if you don't answer, we'll know that's really him.
Anyways, well, hey, just while you're talking about the artist series, I mean, one of my inspirations, and I know it's one of yours, you did an artist series for. Can you talk about that real quick?
Yeah. So that is a crazy story because in my early naive kind of, figuring out what I wanted to make when I started first making pedals, I think the first handful of ones that I did, I was like, hey, let's do this cool. I remember reading a thing about someone thought that the Stooges sound was from a Fuzzrite, right? Mm-hmm. So I made a Fuzzrite clone, and I kind of tweaked it and beat it around and made it sound cool. And I'm like, well, I'll just put him on the top, and then it'll, everybody will get it, and it'll be cool. So I made like a dozen of those, maybe 10 or 12. I think most of them I sold to Chicago Music Exchange. And like, I don't know, a month or two later, I got a letter from an attorney.
Cease and desist.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the estate attorney from Ron Ashton. And, I'm like, man, come on. I seriously made like 10 of these, what do you want? And luckily, in a weird way, my attorney buddy knew the guy. And he smoothed it out, and he just said, look, he'll stop. It's totally cool. You don't have to pay him or anything. So I had to stop. So there was only, a small handful of these things out there. Fast forward 5 years or whatever. And, Reverend Guitars, Ken makes awesome stuff.
Yep.
He did the Ron Ashton guitar, and I was hanging out with him at Summer NAMM. And I'm like, you know what, man? I told him the whole story I just told you. And I'm like, you know what? How did you work that thing out with the guitar? And he put me in touch with Ron's sister, who handles all that stuff. And she was super cool, and we worked it out. And I sent her some artwork, and she approved it, and we did it. And I did a limited run. And then we did, that sold out in a couple of days. And then we did another one with Ken with the guitar and the pedal together, and like a strap and some artwork and stuff, all in a big package. And we sold that at the end of last year, too. So I got to do like 2 runs of those. And those were actually based on the original Germania Vox tone bender that he actually did use on the first 2 records. So
super cool story.
It was pretty cool just emailing back and forth with his sister and being able to do that and have other people dig it, too. And in a weird twist of whatever, the guy who's playing with Iggy right now is using one of the original 12 lawsuit Ron Ashton pedals for bass on tour. Huh. And how he got that, I sent him a message, and he said he got it from his tech or something. One of the original Ashton pedals is on tour with Iggy right now, which is kind of crazy. Small world, but
that's
cool.
Crazy.
Cool story. You know?
I remember when you actually, I think it was a reverb flash sale, or it seemed like a flash sale, because I remember going on and I was arbitrarily, I mean, not arbitrarily, I pretty much, there should be like a support group for Craigslist and reverb.
Impulse buy.
And I go on and it was like you were doing the sale, or there was some sale or flash thing on these particular Ron Ashen pedals. There was only like 3 left or something. I was like, oh God! Right, and I ran to it and they were gone. Poof. I had a chance. I had my chance and I missed it.
It went quick, but I don't know. It turned out cool, and I had a lot of fun coming up with that. So I'm just glad that people dig it. And
well, that's also that's one of the cool things about pedals, that they're accessible enough if you're into them, to where you're at some point you're not just getting them because that's the tone you need for a specific song. They're collector things, so it's like, there's certain pedal builders out there who are, we've talked about this, Matthews Effects, Champion Lecky, like people that are doing very limited run things or handmade to hand painted or artist series or whatever. And it's like, those are the kind of ones you want to jump on and go like, I want to own that, because there's only going to be so many of them.
Yeah. And it's not like buying a guitar or something where you got to drop $600 or,
unless you're Tony.
Yeah.
Damn,
big old money bags, Tony.
Yeah, all right.
So let's see, what else do we have here? We've got you were talking about the Silver Solo, so jump on that real quick.
It's the only thing that I have out right now that's, I guess you could say it's kind of a clone. It's basically a silicone transistor version of a Rangemaster, and then you got the blend on there for full range or bright or whatever. But it's got its own kind of unique thing going on, and I just always kept it in there because I just think it's a cool thing that everybody should have. It sounds kind of silly to say that, but it's just the most usable thing, and everybody needs a boost. I don't know. It was like my first thing too, so I kind of have that little sentimental, thing. But it's such a simple, usable tool for everybody.
Well, what's really cool about that pedal is that, I don't know how much, maybe if I could say the younger generation of guitar players are aware of what Rangemasters, just understanding what they actually do and what they can add to the sound. Could you just kind of elaborate a little bit on what a Rangemaster actually does for your sound?
I'll tell you why I ended up relying on it so much. Other band that I was in, it was like your total typical Marshall stack, two guitar, kind of Aerosmithy lineup, 2 guitars, bass type thing, Les Pauls, Marshalls, SGs, and so we're just constantly having this battle for when your solo comes up and you can't hear your solo, and it's just volume wars and that whole thing. And I've tried every boost and fuzz, and the loudest boost wasn't loud enough, and that all. And then my buddy's like, man, you got to try the Rangemaster circuit, because it does this thing where it kind of just accentuates, it's like basically a high pass a little bit, where it just accentuates, it gives it a little more push, and you get some more texture out of it, and it's just chimier and brighter, and you can hear yourself. And, that's exactly what it did. It was like you're kind of cheating the system a little bit to hear your guitar better, and you get more sustain. And anybody that's ever used like a non-master Marshall or something like that, it just helps to really push it into a little bit more breakup, a little more sustain. And that was totally it, because, that's what I love, is like super vintage heads and full stacks. And it was just like the thing that I needed to make my Les Paul sound that much better in, whatever, JMP full stack kind of thing. And I think, like you said, I think a lot of bands now, or at least like the trend right now, is definitely not people playing Marshall half stacks and Les Pauls. It's people playing little combos and jazz masters and things where they might not necessarily get that same thing out of the pedal that I wanted to get out of it, but it still has the ability to like make things jump out better, or to give you more chiminess or boost or whatever, so the application kind of goes,
helps you cut through the mix a bit
across the board. Yeah, especially with that, So, and I have a lot of friends that use them, and like the whole Les Paul rock thing where they just leave it on.
Yeah,
because it just gives you that kind of articulate edge to what you're playing, and it's kind of the sweet spot. And I always thought that was like a secret in the slash tone somewhere in his recordings. Like, even that
no, his secret was actually the hat.
Yeah, it was his heart only functioning on 2 valves. Yeah. But it has that like kind of creamy, bright, sustainy, awesome thing.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't know. We're talking about a simple pedal, but that's why I think it's cool. So
if you're using 2 guitars with 2 different pickup configurations, that's also something that can really help you out. If you've got your amp tone dialed in, if you tried to make something that is maybe warmer sounding, make it brighter through the amp, but then you go to plug in your telly, this is something that can either tame that or actually brighten up something else. Fair to say?
Yes, it can fatten up a single coil in the best kind of way.
Well said, Mr. Novak.
I think that's what you were saying. Yeah,
that's what I was saying. But you said it better. Where do you typically like to put the Silver Solo in your chain?
I would suggest putting it first because it functions best on the impedance from your guitar.
Okay. I guess the reason I was asking is because, like you, I like fuzz, and I'm always concerned with making sure that I don't mess up the sound it's supposed to have. So when I was plugging these in, I was like, okay, these are both supposed to go first. So, I was flipping and flopping around and trying to figure out where to put it right. But I think we should trust you and see.
Well, all those they're not buffered and they're true bypass. So it really shouldn't matter if, what's in front of it. But, you stick your Boss tuner in front of it and you're going to notice a significant difference in the tone of the pedal. And, like you said, with fuzzes, some fuzzes are really temperamental about what you stick in front of it. So, like I said, unless you're running a whole bunch of stuff, I usually just keep it simple and you don't have to worry about it. But
cool.
I don't know. What else? You got
the Northern Creeper in front of us,
that's my favorite for fuzzes. That's the one I use for my band.
It's about the coolest looking fuzz out there. It's just that's.
It's like an old school patriotic look to it.
Yeah, I grew up when Evel Knievel was the man. Yeah. And I saw that and I was like, that's the Evel Knievel pedal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. We were looking at a bunch of old batteries from the 50s, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's
like, yeah.
Well, if you want to get another cease and desist, you could put Evel Knievel's picture on it.
There you go.
So where does that term come from? Northern Creeper? Is that sort of about like the northern rock thing?
No, I don't know. It's just it sounded cool. And then I found out much later, what it's like the name of a plant or something.
Oh.
But I heard it and I was like, it just sounds kind of tough. Yeah. Or like, like I'm from Chicago. Maybe it's some kind of, street hustling guy or
what
maybe
kind
from
of,
Wisconsin.
What kind of plant?
I don't know. It's like a vine or something. I don't know.
Northern Creeper.
I don't know. It sounds like a potent strain of weed.
Right. That's where I was getting at.
And you gotta try this Northern Creeper.
Yeah, it creeps up on you.
Yeah.
Nice. So what about that pedal does it for you?
It's real kind of well-rounded in the tone. It's not real trebly or bass farty or anything. And I don't know. It seems like just kind of the perfect sort of 70s fuzz, but it's still bitey and it's got the right amount of kind of articulation to it. If you roll back your volume, it opens up real cool to where it's just kind of like a overdriven amp, Mm-hmm. I don't know. I like it because it's just kind of even.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that I noticed is like on the attack setting, if you turn it way down, it's almost, I don't know, would you call it like a bass cut? The more I think that you turn up the attack, it seems to get brighter. Is that right? Or is it just,
usually I keep the volume. Ears? I keep the volume kind of cranked all the way up. Otherwise, it's not a very high output pedal.
Yeah.
You know? So I just usually kind of juice the whole thing.
That is something that I noticed about this pedal, and this is what I was telling Tony. Is like I was expecting it to react like most of my other drives or pedals, where it's like, you know, level equals like, here we go. And this one, it just kind of sat in the pocket. You start playing with the attack, as Tony said. That's where I started to get, and I think Tony was too, getting the different articulation of tone. Now, whether that was something that we were perceiving right or wrong, I'm not really sure, but that's what we were gathering from it.
Yeah, it kind of, you get back past like 3 o'clock and it starts to open up more, you know. My application with it is I turn it up and leave it on. You know,
Nice.
it's not really like for solos or anything. It's pretty much, I have a loud kind of cleanish trainer or Marshall, and I have a telly, and there's always a fuzz on, one of probably 3 fuzzes that I use depending on the song, and it's just that's the tone, you know. So I'm not trying to use it for solos or whatever, but you know, if you did, I'm sure there's, I don't know, I could probably figure out some better ways for you to apply that if you wanted to use it as like a solo boost for a, you know, whatever your rig is or something.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. It's weird because fuzz is one of those terms. There's so many different ways of getting fuzz sound now. Even though I know that the circuits are relatively simple, but you know, everything from like full on doom to like just a little bit of stubble. You know, like this one is it just kind of feels like a smooth kind of like rock fuzz, right? That isn't
Total
over
rock
the top,
fuzz,
like,
man.
oh wow, you're using a fuzz pedal.
Yeah, it's definitely like a rock fuzz kind of thing, you know. It's almost like a distortion out of your amp or something, but
Yeah.
the Supernova is the one that'll take your head off because it's super loud. And
Is that one op amp?
no, it's transistor based, but it's a lot tighter, and you can get a huge like low end out of that depth control. And that one's more like gated and really,
Yes.
you know, you almost got a little bit of synthy, but it's real bitey too. So you got that really like gated kind of raspy edge to it, but a lot of output.
I haven't tried that one myself, but from all the videos that you have up and that other people up, you can really hear that.
You know, when you crank that depth up, that you're almost getting to that like super fuzzy kind of low end range, you know, where it just jumps out. And I guess supposedly Mark from Chicago Music Exchange says that he loves it on bass with that depth cranked all the way up. So if he says it sounds good on bass, I'm going to trust his opinion.
You know, you're a gigging musician, and a lot of the stuff that we talk about is basically just playing in front of your amp, not necessarily playing out. I think we just sort of take for granted that some people are playing out and some people aren't. But as a gigging musician, I would love to know a little bit about the choices that you're making as far as equipment goes. As you know, I gig out. I know a lot of others that are gigging out, and that's kind of like that's like the second half of all of this stuff. It's like whatever's in your house and all of your safe area. You're not playing with a set of drums. You're not playing with a bass.
Yeah, your insulated basement with
right.
And
So
your amps on 2.
Exactly.
Right. And that's it. And that's one thing that I've kind of always tried to keep in the mix is like, you know, all of this stuff before it gets released is me playing it like live. You know, if I have a pedal that I'm pretty happy with, I build it and then I play it with a band, you know, or I play it on stage. And does it do what I want it to do? You know, because I mean, there's a lot of pedals that sound super awesome sitting in your room, right? You know, like, wow, this Big Muff sounds incredible. And then you go and you try and play a solo with it with your band, and all of a sudden your guitar disappears, you know?
Try to play anything with it, and your guitar disappears.
Right. It's nothing against the pedal. It's just in a live application that doesn't cut it. And that's why you take things like the Supernova, you know, or the Silver Solo or things like that. And I mean, that's the whole goal is like, hey, I want a fuzz that I can play rhythm guitar with.
Right.
That doesn't just turn into mush.
Right.
Okay, I came up with the Northern Creeper, and it totally does that. I want something that I can play a solo with a 2-guitar live band with full stacks, and I can actually hit a fuzz and hear my solo without it just being some feedbacky, mushy, washed out nothing. You know, so I came with supernova. Like these are just like solutions I'm coming up with for my own problems. And I'm assuming that that's probably a pretty great way to solve problems, is to actually put it in, the application you want and make sure it does what it's supposed to do. I'm not trying to like, blow my own horn, but like, that's my litmus test for, did I make this do what I want? And some people might not get it if they're in their basement and they're playing, their Blues Junior amp, and they hit some big crazy fuzz thing and they're like, I don't know, it sounds kind of weird. Like, well, hopefully not, but.
Well, you brought up a good point, which is, I think a lot of people, especially if you're starting out, you hear of, particular pedals that everybody plays, or, whatever happens to be hot at the moment. And then, and then you get them home and you're like, this sounds amazing. And maybe they're lucky enough to be playing with some other dudes. And just like you said, that's a radically, you get in the thing and then it's just, this doesn't sound at all like I sounded at home. Whether that's because of your fuzz or because you've got, this scoop sound on your amp, or you are, your reverb is out of whack with the room, then you try something, you might get another pedal. Like I think the Northern Creeper is a great example. Oftentimes when we put a pedal down, we expect it to be, I guess, the most amplified version of itself. So if you put a fuzz down, you're going to be like, all right, bring me the fuzz. If you put a reverb down, the first thing you do is you start tweaking the dials like massively so you can hear the great ranges that it'll bring you. But if you do that, if you like get this, like the Northern Creeper, and you plug it in, you're like, all right, bring me the fuzz. It may not necessarily like bring you a dump truck full of fuzz. However, when you put that in the mix up against a bass player and a kick drum and vocals, now that's a different story. Now you're actually cutting through that mix. So it isn't about the magnitude of that fuzz. It's how it's reacting with everything else that you haven't accounted for in your living room.
Right. And when you get an amp that's tearing your head off.
Right.
And then you stick it on there. It's like,
well, that's a whole, right there. That's a whole other thing. Tony and I were just talking about that before we started this, which was, you've got, most of the time when you're practicing, or, you're doing your own, you're trying to come up with your own riffs, or, you're in your basement or whatever, you're playing on a low volume. If you've got a nice tube amp, you're playing on a low volume, but whatever you're playing, but especially if it's a tube amp. Well, guess what? When you bring it up with the rest of the guys, and you're up on stage, or you're now at practice and you're up at 6 or 8 from 2, your amp is acting differently, and that's going to cause everything else to act different that you haven't accounted for. So then you end up, I've been in that situation where I'm like, I'm sorry guys, I got to fix all my stuff because it doesn't sound right.
Well, yeah, I mean you generally don't you want a general a lower volume on stage anyway, though, don't you? I mean, the sound guys.
Well, in practice, they don't typically. Most of us don't have the luxury of in-ear.
Yeah, I know.
And stuff, so you have to crank it.
Did you just say you wanted a lower volume on stage?
Yeah. Don't you want your guitar amp to have not a totally loud volume, but you want to be able to hear everybody else as well? Or do you want to crank it up super high?
I think.
What if the sound guy can't mix you in with everybody else because your stuff's too loud? Isn't that just a general thing? That's my experience anyway, playing live.
I mean, as long as I can hear what I'm singing, then I'm good.
Yeah. I think so, Jared. I think where you're getting at is the difference between being mic'd for a club versus just everybody supporting all the volume for the entire venue.
Yeah, and I've been in both situations where the only sound reinforcement we had was vocals.
Right. So
I see what you're saying.
If we paint this picture a little bit more, if we're on stage and you've got your own monitors and you've got your amp and you got the PA feeding, you don't have to rely on
that's two different situations.
Volume carrying everything from your amp.
I'm glad I brought it up though.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a good point.
It sounds better though.
And I'm biased because I've always just been in stupidly loud bands.
Right.
So any normal person would probably quit immediately. So
yeah.
Well, hey, in your situation, at least you get to actually, hear what your amp is able to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Plus, my band now is a 3-piece, so it's pretty simple. You know, there's a one guitar, there's a bass bridge on the other side of the drums, and as long as I can hear what I'm singing, it's fine. You know, because it's like two things super loud and a bunch of cymbals. So
well,
easy breezy.
Let's easy breezy this on home with a little bit of
Would You Rather?
All right,
yeah, let's do it.
We tailored this one just for you today, man.
Yeah,
lay it on me.
This episode's Would You Rather is it's pretty simple, and I'm excited about it. So would you
because
rather
it's simple or
well, we're not. I mean, we don't have to, elaborate like the last couple of.
I think we should elaborate.
I think this is an elaboration one. But go ahead.
We should.
Tony, if you say we should, we should. So let's get on with it, gents. All right. Would you rather have?
Where are we going?
You're going to go to the guitar store and you're going to pick up.
We're in Detroit Rock City, baby.
In Detroit Rock City.
Okay.
Yeah. Would you rather have a Wayne Kramer Fender Stratocaster, the signature Wayne Kramer, with the flag on it, the American flag and the stars and stripes and all that good stuff? Or would you rather have the Ron Ashton Reverend signature Flying V Carina? Now this one has the shorter horn, the lower horn. It's got 3 P90s and you got that raised center section like Firebird.
And it's got 3 lightning bolts on it.
Yeah, that's right. So
let's for the listeners out there who may or may not, hopefully you're aware, and if you're not, that's okay too. That means you are in for a whole lot of awesomeness. If you haven't heard of these gentlemen or the music they've created, strap your boots on, people, because that's the best stuff.
Can you imagine hearing any of those records for the first time?
I mean, some people, I guarantee, are going to be be that for the first time.
Well, neither one of those are any Justin Biebers or anything.
No.
I mean, if you were like some 15-year-old kid, like if you just snuck a beer out of your dad's fridge and you're 15 and you're in your basement.
Yeah. Put on
these guys said
MC5,
man. He told me I should listen to the MC5. Let's see what this is all about.
That should make sense to a lot of 15-year-old kids, actually.
Yeah. So let's see. Wayne Kramer, the guitar player for the MC5, and we got Ron Ashton, the guitar player for the Stooges. What are you picking?
See, all right.
See why I did this?
Short answer. The Wayne Kramer reissue Strat.
Really?
I'm taking this a step further though. The original Wayne Kramer Strat or Ron Ashton's pre-CBS Dakota Red Strat. Which one do you pick then? The originals.
Oh, golly.
So I see a big headstock on the signature model on Wayne Kramer's.
Yeah, but Ron Ashton's. So he threw in another guitar in the mix.
I understand that. Let me ask the question.
Okay.
So is it easy? Is it CBS then? That's Wayne Kramer's. Can I confirm that is a CBS mid 60s,
late 60s or
late
70s.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to get that clear. I'm sorry about that interruption.
Versus the 62.
And then I think Ron's is early. Whatever year that was, 60.
Yeah,
early
63, 60, whatever, 65 Strat. The red with the white pick guard.
So you're taking Wayne Kramer's Strat at this point between the Ron Ashton
V versus the Strat. I'm going to go with the Wayne Strat.
Okay, right, so if it was between the two Strats, which would you take?
If it was between the two Strats,
the originals,
right? The originals. I would probably go with the Ashton Strat.
Really?
Well, yeah, it's pre-CBS.
No, not because it's pre-CBS.
Yes, because it's pre-CBS.
What? You are missing the point, my son. Okay.
I don't
anyways,
think so.
For sure you are.
You
okay.
don't see many of those, but
that's right.
And the only reason I picked the Strat over the V is because my first guitar was a Strat. I got a whole bunch of Strats. I kind of got a sweet spot for them.
Aha.
Plus, and you know what? I never played them live. That's the weird thing. I have a bunch of Strats. I never play them. Like, I play them at home. I play them on the couch and everything. And, my kid knocks it over. It's not going to break. But
why?
Live,
Why don't you play them live?
I don't. They just don't. They don't do what I want.
Are they just too quiet?
it's just the pickup thing, and I got a couple with humbuckers in them, but they're still not beefy enough, are they?
I like how they play. I love recording with them. And now I've been using tellies, which apparently does what I need with the pickups. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like the floating neck thing or, the bridge. I don't know.
Sounds like you need to give me a call.
It's like I have seriously, I have like 5 Strats, and I've never played a show with a Strat in any of my bands.
Wow. Neither have I, coincidentally.
Yeah, weird. And I never played a telly, but then in the last couple of years, I got a few tellies, and that's been my main guitar for what I do now, because you can just annihilate fuzz pedals with the telly, and it still sounds like it doesn't blow it out. You know? And that was like a trick I learned from this other band that I saw, and I was talking to the guy, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I got 2 plexis, and I go into the low input on both, and I play a telly." And he has like the biggest, fattest, loudest fuzz tone I've ever heard.
That's awesome.
So that was like, oh man, they're doing like, like the Pumpkins trick. You go in the low input and then just totally crank the master, and then you can hit it with so much fuzz, and it just stays huge because you're not. It
doesn't sound like mud
tubes. Yeah, it's all power tube breakup. So
cool, man.
Anyways, I hope that answered your question.
That does. Tony, which are you choosing?
Normally I do not go for the Stratocaster.
Mm-hmm.
I have a love-hate relationship with them. But in addition to the cool paint scheme that's on the Wayne Kramer Strat, anybody that throws a PAF in the middle position gets my vote. So I'm going Wayne Kramer Strat all the way. Easy rider paint job.
All right. Jared?
I'm gonna go with the Reverend signature.
All right.
However, just like Johnny's scenario, I would go for the pre-CBS if that was in the picture. But I'm just going to go with what I said. The 2 choices, which is the Ron Ashton Reverend signature.
He's a ball at restaurants too. So
Flying V Carina. So
those are cool, man. I had one of the packages at my house, and I played it, man. It plays awesome. Sounds awesome.
How does it feel lighter than any other V because of it's kind of smaller as far as the horn?
It was a good weight. It feels kind of light. I mean, V's aren't that heavy to begin with.
Well balanced.
But the neck felt good. I don't know. Everything was cool. The headstock's a little bit straighter than the Gibson tilt kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I love P90s too. So that was kind of
I would imagine it's got a Gibson scale on it as well.
So. Yeah, it's shorter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going with the V2. I love the MC5 and the Stars and Stripes and everything. And man, I was so excited to see that you posted that on your feed about that show coming back. That's cool.
And with Doug and Kim Thale, it's going to be nuts.
Yeah.
And I hope it's at a big enough theater that we can all get tickets, because
that would be fantastic. I will. You know what? If they end up getting out there and not down here, then I might have to find my way up there. But I got to go with the Kramer on this one. Yeah, I'm sorry, not the Kramer, the Ron Ashton, because I just can't do Strats. That's it. And it's P90s on a V, man. That's cool.
I know, man. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
So anyhow, that was fun. It's always fun doing the old Would You Rather. Okay. Tony.
Yes, I am here.
What do we got?
I think we want to thank some people.
Let's do it.
All right. So, in the world of Patreon, there are various levels that people can participate in sponsorships.
That's right.
The very biggest, bestest, strongest, fastest is at the executive producer level. And one of the biggest benefits of being an executive producer is, Jared,
you get to have your name read on the thing.
We would like to thank all of our executive producers for their support of our podcast.
Let's do it.
All right, that would involve Darren Gregory, Alex Leggett, Robert Marfleet, John Anglin, Chris Kearney, Sean Oliver Gonzalez, John Daly, Robin Smith, Derek Fitzer, Pete Marshall, Carlos Mancha, Matt Brammer, David Wolfson, Martin Cliff, and Tom Barazin.
All right.
If you would like to become an executive producer or just any other level, head on over to patreon.com/The Guitar Knobs and find out how.
Hey, everybody, we'd like to remind you that at reverb.com, you'll find a marketplace just for musicians all over the world. You can buy, sell, make offers, and negotiate with complete protection. Whether you're selling from home or if music gear is your day job, there are millions of listings online already, and it's free to list yours too. Join the musicians marketplace at reverb.com. Dude, Johnny, it has been awesome having you on the show. I've been wanting to talk to you about your pedals and the way that you're doing your music. And I'm just thrilled that you've been on the show. Where can people check you out?
Everything is on the website, daredevilpedals.com. And then through that, you can get to the Reverb page. You can get to all the videos. There's a lot of videos and photos and all that kind of extra level nerdy stuff on the Instagram page too. I try to do a lot of like cool, daily video posts and stuff. So you can find that. But pretty much everything across the board is Daredevil Pedals at something. So, thanks for having me on here. Hopefully some people kind of got some insight as to what's going on over here in Chicago. And there'll be a lot to come this year. I got a lot of cool stuff lined up. So,
Well, just make sure that you drop us a line when you're doing that. We'll get it out there. We'll help get it up on our stuff as well, so everybody can see what you're doing. So, dude, thank you so much.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you.
Take care, man. And Jared, where can everybody find your particular wares?
Well, if you need a repair, a restoration on a pickup, or a new set, go to brandonwoundpickups.com. Email me at jared@brandonwoundpickups.com. That's JARED, Jared.
Cool. Tony?
And if you are in the need for a new pickguard for your prized possession,
A nice one.
a very nice one, check out pickguardian.com or the various social media.
Right.
I don't care about making money. I just love making pickguards.
Yep. We're not, and yeah. All right. Oh, let's bake this cake. Cripes. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Subscribe. Yeah. Doggone it. Hang on.
It was going so well.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/The Guitar Knobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.